Revolution, come in. Revolution, come in.
Hello guys and welcome to Revolution. This is my official 50th video that I have released on my channel, and for that reason I felt compelled to make something special. Now obviously I am a Dragon Ball YouTuber, but on this video I will be bringing Superman into the equation. Now I know that there are a plethora of videos with Goku facing off versus Superman, but that's not what I'm going to be doing in this video. I'm going to be discussing the potential power of a fusion between Superman and Goku. Now, in this picture on your screen, that is the finger dance fusion. But that is not what I'm going to be discussing in this video. In Dragon Ball, there is a way to accomplish a more powerful method of fusion. And this is done by using the Potara earrings. The Potara earrings are kept in possession of the gods of creation, the supreme Kais of their respective universes. And what these Potara earrings do is multiply the power of Fusey A times Fusey B. So that would literally mean it would be Clark Kent's power times Son Goku's power. I think it's safe to assume that you would agree with me that you would not want to mess with the result of this fusion. So guys, this is not a debate about who is strongest. And although I will be going into the analysis of, say, their power and their speed, etc., this is not a verse battle. If that is what you was looking for, do not panic, because there is a plethora of those kind of videos all over YouTube. So go check them out. So back to fusion. The one thing about the Potara earrings is that both beings involved in the fusion must be in the same stratosphere of power. If, say, one was to fuse with a much weaker being, it would actually weaken the fusion by quite a significant amount. Goku states this in the Buu Saga of Dragon Ball Z when he considers fusing with Hercule, and the result of that fusion is on your screen now. His name is Goku, except Goku would have been a massive decrease in power, even for Goku at that stage. Now, since the inception of the Man of Steel, Clark Kent, there has been a platitude of Supermans. And Superman's power itself actually depends on quite a few variables. The biggest one being on who the author is and the respective Superman on whose story he wrote. Now, there are some authors who believe Superman is indestructible. There are some others that don't. But what I can say is there are definitely some Supermans that are way stronger than Goku, even considering his Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken times 10 form. But there are also some who are significantly weaker. But for this topic we are discussing, we want one who is in the same realm of power. So for that, I have chosen pre-crisis Silver Age Superman, simply because he is a beast. I also think it's only fair to stick with one Superman from one author, as Goku himself only has one author in Akira Toriyama. And I also think using more than one version of Superman will ultimately make an extremely messy video. So, pre-crisis Superman, fusing with Super Saiyan Blue, Kaioken times 10, Son Goku. Before getting into the nitty-gritties of this fusion, I will state that I am prominently a Dragon Ball fan, so I expect the heaps of slander calling me a DB-tard after this video. But I promise that I will literally be giving the most accurate analysis I can based on evidence that is from either the anime and the comic. So remember guys, this isn't about who's stronger, it's about how powerful the fusion between these two warriors would be. So, being as this is a Dragon Ball channel, I will start the proceedings with Goku. So for the breakdown of Goku and Superman's abilities, we are going to split them into categories. The first one being strength, the second speed, the third their combat abilities, the fourth their special abilities and techniques, and fifth their intelligence and general mentality. So, like I said, Goku's up first. So what is Goku's strength? What is his lifting capacity? Well, the latest fiat that you could say shows his lifting capacity is in his fight against Beerus in the Battle of God Saga. Now you could say there have been examples since then, but the reason I've chosen this example is because it shows Goku using his muscle and ki energy, holding back a certain applicable amount of force. Now, during this fight with Beerus, they have a clash of fists that literally is about to destroy the universe. And during this clash, they clash 3 times. And Elder Kai states that one more will make the universe crumble. Now, the Dragon Ball universe isn't just the size of what our observable universe is. It is literally split into 3 components. There is the mortal universe, the cosmos, and then the extra radius created by the planet of the Supreme Kai. So in essence, Goku is pretty much capable in his Super Saiyan God form to destroy the universe with the power of a punch. Now you're probably saying, well, that's striking force. Well, after that strike, him and Beerus have a little struggle of power. And after the connection of the punch, Goku holds his arm in place to nullify Beerus's punch. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to the gym. I have, and when you lift a weight that's too heavy for you, your muscles literally collapse and you will drop the weight. Yet here, Goku does not. Now, a study of 70 boxers found elite level fighters could punch with an average of 776 pounds of force. And now, guys, this is just an average, and Goku just simply isn't your average. But that's lowballing for the sake of this discussion. Now, the average bench press is literally 100 to 150 pounds. So the average striking force is around 6 times lifting weight of the average person. Now, the observable universe is said to contain around 200 million galaxies. So if you divide that by 6, you get 33.3 million galaxies. So that fiat there suggests in his Super Saiyan God form, he could withstand the pressure and hold his arm fixed in position using his muscles in his ki and withhold the pressure of at least 33.3 million galaxies. And that's lowballing. Remember, Goku isn't the average, but there you go. Now, since that fight, Goku has gotten considerably stronger. And since then, he has unlocked the Super Saiyan Blue transformation. Now, we don't have any official multiplication for what this transformation does as of yet, but I do not believe that it is the same 50 times multiplier the Super Saiyan gives your regular base form. However, if we lowball it, I think it is at least a 2 times multiplier on the Super Saiyan God form. Now, you could say I'm lowballing again, but this is just for argument's sake. So that would mean he could now lift 66.6 million galaxies. Now, despite the fact that Goku has actually made this transformation stronger since he's unlocked it, we are actually just going to ignore that because against the legendary assassin Hit, Goku tapped into his Kaioken and multiplied his Super Saiyan Blue transformation by the power of 10. So that now gives him the lifting capacity of 666.6 million galaxies. That comes to the equivocal weight of 3 universes. So the whole macrocosm, how the Dragon Ball universe is run by, he has shown that he should be able to potentially lift that much weight. Now, I know the universe isn't a tangible weight you can lift up, but that is the force that Goku actually withheld. If you don't believe me, go watch the Battle of Gods arc. Goku, Super Saiyan God, versus Beerus, and in that fight, he genuinely does what I've just said, so there's no denying the feat. Even though I could totally empathise with you if you say that sounds absurd. So, moving on. Now it's time to figure out what Goku's speed is. So, just like Screw Attack, to get Goku's speed, I'm going to use his fiat along Snake Way. Except there's one difference. I'm not going to do it in the ridiculous way they did. So what Screw Attack did by counting the amount of, what did they do? Tiles along the way? A simple animation flaw that the animators probably did not take into account. Anyway, there is a measurable distance on how to calculate his speed fiat when he travels back from King Kai's planet in 2 days. So this is where I bring up this picture again, and this picture itself was actually drawn by Akira Toriyama, and it was published in the Daizenshu. So basically what I would like to point out is in the top half of this diagram is the cosmos, and this is where King Kai resides. Now it actually tells you where the Kai-Osama's planet is, and obviously it's in the north quadrant of the universe. Now, in Dragon Ball, the universe is exactly the same size as our real universe. And obviously, if you look at that picture, the cosmos is exactly the same size as the universe. So it's the same distance across. Now, at the central point of that universe is King Yama's palace. And from there protrudes Snake Way, which leads up to King Kai's planet. Now this diagram of the macrocosm isn't drawn exactly to scale, but I think it's fair to say that King Kai's planet would be in the best vantage point for his quadrant of the universe, and surely that would be directly in the centre, so that would make it a quarter of the universe across. So from King Yama's palace to the edge of the universe, that's half. Well, King Kai is in the middle, so quarter, for the best vantage point of his quadrant. Now, our entire observable universe is approximately 13.8 billion years old. So that means it would take 13.8 billion years at the speed of light to travel across. Now let's take a quarter of the universe, which is 3,425,000,000 light years. Now on his way back from King Kai's planet, he travelled this distance in approximately 2 days. At least King Kai said it would take him 2 days, and there's no reason to disregard what King Kai says. He is a god after all. So to find that number, what we have to do is divide a usual year by 2, which equals 180, and then times it by 3,425,000,000. That equals 616,500,000,000. So to travel that distance in 2 days, he had to travel at 616,500,000,000 times the speed of light. Now, I'm sure Akira Toriyama was not taking any travel distances or speeds into account. That's the job of us fans. But going on that fiat, that is what Goku did. Now, when Goku arrives back on Earth to fight Vegeta, Vegeta states that his power is over 9,000. Well, actually, that's a mistranslation. He should have said his power is over 8,000. But we're going to fast forward to when Goku is about to face Frieza on planet Namek. And at that point, it states in the Daizenshu that Goku's power level is 3 million. Now, guys, that is 375 times stronger than what Goku was once he had got back to Earth after travelling on Snake Way. So that would make Goku's speed 231,187,500,000,000 times the speed of light. It's getting wacky, I know, but it's about to get even wackier. Right, Super Saiyan 3 is 400 times Goku's base. Now, I'm going to use that base level from that Frieza saga, and I know full well that his power level at his base has got much more powerful since then, but let's not overcomplicate this. So, 400 times his base power level and his speed, which would make him 92,475,000,000,000,000 times the speed of light. Whew! Now, there is no official power level for what Super Saiyan God is, but there might be one way to get at least a relative number of how powerful Super Saiyan God is. Just before fighting Beerus, Goku denies the opportunity to use the fusion to face off against Beerus, as he doesn't think that Vegito will actually be powerful enough to take on Beerus. Now, to get Vegito's power level, what we have to do is go back to the Buu Saga. And in the Buu Saga, Vegeta was a Super Saiyan 2 and Goku was a Super Saiyan 3. So, even though this is just a rough estimate, let's divide Goku's power level by 4. And obviously his speed. So that would make Vegeta's speed at Super Saiyan 2 23 quadrillion 118 trillion 750 billion times the speed of light. Times Goku's speed, because remember guys, just like in this video with Goku and Superman, it is a multiplication of each other's powers. That would make Vegito 2 decillion 137 nillion 906 octillion 406 septillion 250 sectillion times the speed of light. Now, as Super Saiyan God wasn't actually powerful enough to actually beat Beerus itself, let's say that it's the same power as Vegito at Super Saiyan. And at Super Saiyan, that's a 50 times multiplier. So Vegito and Super Saiyan God's speed would be 106 decillion times the speed of light. Now, just as before, let's lowball the Super Saiyan Blue transformation and say it's only a 2 times multiplier. That would put Super Saiyan Blue Goku at 213 decillion times the speed of light. Then, let's use Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken times 10. That would put Goku at 2 undecillion times the speed of light. Now that is completely wacky and throws the theory of relativity completely out the window. But you know guys, if you go on that fiat and use the multiplications of his power as an indication for his speed, which is what you should do, as for example a Super Saiyan times 50 transformation multiplies your strength and your speed times 50. So that is the natural way to go. And although once again it seems completely absurd, and I can definitely empathise with that, it is what it is. So enough of the mathematics for now. We are now on to Goku's fighting techniques and skills. Now, despite Goku's incredibly low IQ, he is in fact actually a genius when it comes to martial arts and fighting. Goku's stances and fighting styles heavily resemble that of Kung Fu, and Akira Toriyama has claimed that he was heavily inspired by Jackie Chan movies. Now, in the anime, Goku is trained by Grandpa Gohan, Master Roshi, Kami, the North Kai, and most recently of all, Whis. Now, just from observing the anime, you can see that Whis seems to be a master, or at least have some vast knowledge of Wing Chun. Now, in terms of striking strength, at Super Saiyan God, or Super Saiyan Blue even, Goku is quite clearly universal level, as his punches at Super Saiyan God were powerful enough to almost destroy the universe. So with the subsequent transformations, obviously, by now he should be at universal level. In terms of durability, the same thing goes as well. He was taking hits from a repressed Beerus. He even tanked a Sphere of Destruction, not only tanking it, but squashing the attack into nothingness, pitting his durability at a universal level. Now, in terms of stamina, Goku's stamina relies on what transformation he's using, and obviously the more powerful the transformation, the more stamina it burns. So it basically depends on how much energy Goku outputs in whatever transformation he is using. And in terms of range, the punches from his battle with Beerus were causing shockwaves which were tearing apart the universe. So his range is at universal level in terms of attacks, as well as the fact he can use instant translocation, which is multiversal in range because he has been able to get to the Supreme Kai's planet just with instant transmission. Though despite being an expert in martial arts, Goku uses a vast array of special techniques and mixes together the fighting styles he is the master of, as well as these techniques. And another thing that can be said of Goku is that if plan A doesn't go to plan, he always has a backup plan to make sure things end up going his way. And to do this, Goku uses his massive arsenal of special techniques. Now, I don't want to go too much into the Super Saiyan transformations as they've been quite well covered in this video, so I'll just go on to his attacks. Now, Goku can use and manipulate with mastery ki energy, and this ki can be manipulated to use as a form of attack. Now, Goku has one extremely famous attack called the Kamehameha, and he pretty much uses this all the time. It is an extremely powerful attack and has great range, and its destructive capacity is much higher than that of his usual striking force. So with this attack, you feel that if he was to go all out with this attack, it is clearly quite easily a multiversal plus buster attack. He can also use the Destructo Disc, which is conducting ki in the form of a razor-sharp disc, which is then hurled over and around the body to cut the target. And his most powerful technique is possibly the Genki Dama, otherwise known as the Spirit Bomb. It's one of Goku's signature attacks, in which Goku harnesses the power and ki energy of all nearby living organisms. So the power of the attack depends on how much power he can manage to harness, but he can also put his own energy into the attack, as well as everything from the universe if he has enough time. His special techniques aren't just attacks though. He also has the After Image technique, which is a short burst of extremely high speed, moving faster than the opponent can sense, which has an effect of leaving a momentary after image. He can also use instant transmission, which is essentially teleportation. As long as he can sense another person or being, he can teleport to their location, and this is multiversal in range. And quite recently, Goku has learned the Mafuba technique, which he is taught by Master Roshi to use against future Zamasu, in which he seals away evil entities into a container. And with his Super Saiyan God transformation, he also showed the ability to heal himself after being stabbed in the gut by Beerus. Now, in terms of intelligence, despite being a martial arts genius, Goku is not the sharpest knife in the drawer. He's seen multiple times throughout the whole series struggling to count even small numbers. Apart from his martial arts education, Goku has received little education throughout his lifetime whatsoever, and literally in terms of intelligence, pretty much resembles a small child. But Goku loves to fight, and that is where his warrior mentality comes into play. He isn't scared to fight anyone and will fight opponents much stronger than him, just to test his own strength. Now, this comes with a certain drawback. Goku gets too overconfident at times, and in those times tends to switch off and gives his opponents reprieve, just like he did against Golden Frieza, where he completely turned back into his base form and was subsequently hit by a simple laser beam. This laser beam literally knocked Goku out pretty much, whereas if he was in a transform state or even concentrating, it literally wouldn't have had any effect whatsoever. Goku's most remarkable mentality aspect though has to be the fact that he constantly breaks his limits. If he has a limit, he will break it. You can be sure of that with Goku. So basically guys, Son Goku is an extremely powerful and gifted fighter. But surely by fusing with pre-crisis Silver Age Superman, he can only get even stronger, add more fighting abilities to his arsenal, and pretty much become one of the most feared beings in all multiverses. So let's move on to pre-crisis Superman. So to get Superman's fiat isn't going to have to resolve around me going through lots of multiplications. First of all, because Superman's fiats are well documented, in fact more documented than Goku's, at least in the Western civilization of the planet. And also generally because Superman doesn't use transformations that multiply his power by a certain number, like Goku does. So anyway, let's get on to Silver Age pre-crisis Superman. And what is his strength? Now, one of pre-crisis Superman's most impressive and infamous fiats was the picture you see on your screen right now. I'm sure you've seen it, but this is where Superman is towing all the planets from a galaxy and moving them to another galaxy. Now, in November 2013, and I'm aware this comic was written way before this, but let me just put this into perspective. Based on Kepler space mission data, there could be as many as 40 billion Earth-sized planets orbiting in habitable zones of sun-like stars in the Milky Way alone. Now, excuse my language, but that is fucking mental. Anyway, as you can see, Superman is pulling this with one arm. So this is a casual fiat for Superman. I would also like to point out as well that this isn't just Superman, it's Superboy. So it's him in his younger days. And on top of that, he's only pulling planets. He isn't pulling any stars, which means he isn't gaining any significant photonucleic effect. And another impressive thing is, if you look in that yellow box in the top left corner of the screen, he did this in one day. So, he must have been travelling at some significant speed whilst pulling all of these planets. Now, it's really hard to put a number on this strength fiat of this accomplishment because we don't know the size of the planets. We don't truly know how many planets he was pulling. I mean, he may not have been pulling anywhere near 40 billion planets. However, this fiat is incredible. And just imagine, the older version of Superman is going to be stronger, surely. So, what is he capable of? If Superman was to use both of his hands and his full strength and, actually put some effort into this, I'd be pressed to say that he is actually, at the very least, multi-galactic level in terms of strength. Unfortunately, due to the lack of information on each planet's weight, density and gravity pull, it's too hard to do these calculations. So it is just a guess. However, there is one more fiat that is incredibly impressive that Superman does. Now, in this fiat, Superman pushes his way towards the Big Bang. Now, the force of this explosion is quite potentially a universal force. I mean, it did create the universe after all. But anyway, it's really hard to gauge an exact number to put on Superman's strength. So I am quite happy to say and make this guess that this Superman is at least high-end multi-galaxy level, possibly low universal level in strength. Now, due to the fact he can breathe in the vacuum of space, Superman can reach incredible speeds whenever he wants. He doesn't have to fear for the Earth when he's in space. So what is Superman's speed? Well, in this picture you can see that he is chasing his cousin Kara, who is in an unconscious state, flying at incredible speeds throughout the universe. Now, in that top left panel, there is a statement saying that Superman is flying at infinity. However, that contradicts what's actually happening in the scene. I mean, if he was flying at infinity, he would catch Kara in an instant. So, basically, let's take what is actually on these panels as an indication for his speed. Now, what he says is he's now in another universe. So that indicates that he's at the very least, travelled the distance of the universe. Now, earlier in this video, we discussed the distance of light years that the observable universe is in the Goku segment of Goku Speed. And that is 13.8 billion light years. Now, just in case you haven't noticed, just as earlier on, at the bottom of the screen I've got a little ticker running, and that just indicates that I do know that the observable universe is actually a lot bigger than that. In fact, it's somewhere close to 50 billion light years, but we will go on the basis of what is currently being observed by the Planck satellites. So just to get an actual grounded figure rather than the theoretical size of the universe. Anyway, 13.8 billion light years. Now, to get the figure of Superman travelling this distance, he actually does this in seconds. So let's use 5 seconds as the barometer. Now once again, 5 seconds is just an approximation, but I think it's a safe approximation to use. So basically, the first multiplication I want to do is a simple one. 60 seconds divided by 5 seconds, and that equals 12. Now remember that number, because the complicated mathematics starts again. So there are 60 seconds in a minute, and there are 60 minutes in an hour. So times 60 seconds by 60 minutes, and you get 3,600 seconds. Now there are 24 hours in a day. So let's times 3,600 by 24. That makes 86,400 seconds. Now, there are 365 days in a year. So that's times 365 by 86,400. That totals 31,536,000. Times that by 13.8 billion, you get 4 quintillion, 351 quadrillion, 968 trillion times the speed of light. Now remember guys, I told you to hold on to that 12 because we started off these multiplications with 60 seconds, and 5 seconds that we talked about was only a 12th of those 60 seconds. So we now need to times that number by 12, which equals a massive 5 quintillion, 222 quadrillion, 361 trillion and 6 billion times the speed of light that Superman was flying whilst chasing Kara. And guys, that is a huge low ball. And one thing can also be said about Superman is that he seems to be getting faster the longer he flies. In terms of fighting styles and combat abilities, Superman is trained in Kryptonian martial arts. He is trained in hard and soft styles of these martial arts, the hard style being called kal-el, and the soft styles being called Torkazum Rao, which is a meditative form of the martial art, and Torkazum Vo, which is the martial art. Superman has also been trained by his good friend, the Batman. So I think it's fair to say that he is very adept when it comes to combat abilities. And damn can this man hit hard too. He has destroyed a machine that survived the Big Bang explosion. So clearly Superman is on a universal busting level in terms of striking force. Now during that Big Bang attack, Superman actually survived that Big Bang attack, which puts his durability at universal level. And also, he was hit by the power of 100 galaxies, and he was only slightly surprised. So you could potentially put him at universal plus level. And in terms of stamina, he almost never tires. Now, he can be shown to tire a little bit when he's fighting incredibly strong opponents, but his stamina is pretty stellar. He has a multi-solar system level in terms of range, as when he once sneezed, he blew away the solar system. Now, pre-crisis Superman has an extraordinary array of powers in his arsenal. It is literally incredible, and one of his powers even includes making up new powers for himself. Yeah. Anyway, we'll start off with the well-known ones. So he has heat vision, where he fires a beam that is hotter than the sun from his own eyes, and it is capable of starting up stars and even sealing holes within reality. He also has super breath, which can move stars and planets just using his breath. And he even has ice breath, where he can freeze planets and stars, as well as such abilities as microscopic vision, telescopic vision, X-ray vision, telekinesis. He can even time travel. He can regenerate, and like I said, even invent new superpowers. And that includes things like super knitting, super weaving, super mathematics, super ventriloquism. I'm not going to go through all of them because they are pretty much just absurd. But do you get the picture? I think you do. I mean, this was at a time where the writers really had to rush out their content and really didn't give a rat's arse about continuity. I mean, you very rarely saw any of these abilities ever again, but he did them and they are fiats of Superman. So, now in terms of intelligence and mentality, Superman is an absolute super genius. His intellect is nigh omniscient. He's smarter than supercomputers. He can build advanced robots and technologies. He has vast knowledge on aliens and the universe, and he can understand all languages. He is extremely righteous and is extremely determined to save the day. He showed great psychological fortitude when he was pushing his way to the center of the Big Bang, which shows how resilient he truly is. Pre-crisis Superman is simply remarkable. His fiats are completely absurd. But then again, so are Goku's. But the good thing is they're not fighting against each other, remember guys? In this video, they are fusing. So, let's get on to what this video is actually about. The fusion. So, we're going to start off with the first category, strength. What would the strength of the fusion of Superman and Goku be? Well, both of them are both at universal status in terms of strength. Now remember, this fusion is a multiplication of each other's strength. So Goku Strength times Superman's strength would quite easily be high multiversal. Now for the really crazy one, what is the speed of this fusion? Now, Goku at Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken times 10 should be able to travel at 2 undecillion times the speed of light, going off his earlier Snake Way fiat with the subsequent transformation multiplications. And Superman, based off his catching Kara fiat, should at least be able to travel at 5 quintillion, and that is definitely a low ball for Superman. So what is the multiplication of 2 undecillion times 5 quintillion? Well, the answer is 10 septendecillion times the speed of light. Now guys, I know if anyone travelled that speed on Earth, the Earth would just go, I don't even know what would happen to it, but it wouldn't be able to survive. But that is where some of Superman's attributes really boost this fusion. Superman can breathe in the vacuum of space, whereas Goku cannot. So therefore, he would be able to reach these speeds in the vacuum of space. Now remember guys, in that scan of Superman chasing Kara, Superman is actually getting faster and faster. He does not appear to be tiring. So, Goku's Kaioken actually burns through his energy extremely quickly. But Superman doesn't have that problem. Superman's stamina is much better than Goku's. But in this fusion, the most dominant attributes come to the fore. So, this fusion would not get tired out as quickly as what Goku's Kaioken tires Goku out. Okay, up next, the combat abilities of both these characters. Well, Clark Kent is naturally gifted in Kryptonian martial arts, but Goku is truly a martial arts master. It is pretty much almost all he lives for. So there is no doubt that this fusion would be exceedingly talented at martial arts. However, what Superman also contributes to this fusion is the fact that he doesn't need his key energy to be sustained all the time to continually have great durability. If Goku loses focus, he can be taken down by simple laser beams. Whereas with Superman as part of this fusion, that's not going to happen. Stamina issues won't be such a problem because of Superman's stamina, and because of Goku's instant transmission, the speed of this fusion might not even come into play because instant transmission is instant. Now, what special abilities does this fusion have? Well, the arsenal of attacks for this fusion is going to be stacked. From Goku, he gets things such as key manipulated attacks, such as the Kamehameha, and from Superman, they get things like heat vision. Now, with the Goku and Vegeta fusion, we saw the final Kamehameha. Well, here, we might get to see some really crazy attacks. Imagine a Kamehameha vision where he fires a heated Kamehameha from his eyes. I know that's madness. This fusion will still have the ability to transform and multiply the power that it already has, or maybe using solar flare on himself to get power up that way. He can heal, he can regenerate, he can use hypnosis, he can use after image techniques, he can even seal people in a jar using the Mafuba. Anyway, you could probably mix all these attacks together. Oh, and don't forget, he can literally invent attacks, from Superman's ability to invent superpowers. Anyway, on to IQ. Well, Goku is an idiot. He really isn't that smart. In fact, he struggles to count. He is a fighting genius, however, but his intellect is pretty damn low, whereas Superman is a super genius. In fact, he's nigh omniscient. So basically, this fusion will bring the dominant attributes to the fore. So this fusion will be an absolute genius. Now, through Goku and his willingness to always train to become stronger, this fusion will never stop. He can't stop, won't stop. He will keep getting stronger and he will keep training. And through Superman's righteousness and sense of duty towards, well, us lot, we will also always be protected. And in terms of weaknesses, Goku can't breathe in the vacuum of space, as mentioned before. Well, Superman kind of eradicates that weakness in this fusion, as well as Goku's transformations having stamina drawbacks. Well, Superman kind of has that covered too. And in terms of Superman's weaknesses, Goku isn't weak to kryptonite, so he will still have a lot of key powered attacks that won't be affected by kryptonite, and a red sun most likely won't negate all the key power that this fusion possesses. Time for fusion! Hey guys, Revolution again. Check out some of these videos on your screen right now for some more awesome Revolution Dragon Ball content.